Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Om. Om Shanti 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 Om. Namaste. Welcome everyone. We begin today with a question from Lynn. Can we, Lynn? Yeah? Okay. So she brought a very nice subject that it's important that we look into it, you know. She says that I began wondering about time. So the question is around time. I began wondering about time when I came across the teachings of Swami Paramarthananda on Viveka Shuddhamani, and that is verse 497, right, Lynn? Is the entire text, right? Yeah, because I haven't looked into all the verse. So she brought a verse 497, which says that there are no divisions. It says that Kala is the principle which brings about change. You know, the phenomenal world of objects, they keep changing. And that is due to a principle called Kala. So this changing principle is called Kala. There is no division. So you make a commentary that it's heavily subjective. This is your commentary? It's heavily subjective?
No, that is Paramarthananda's commentary. I just said that was my emphasis when I put it in bold.
Yeah, you put in bold, he says, yeah.
That's sort of the essence of the question.
So that becomes a question then. So this changing principle is what causes division, which causes division, which called changing, it calls the objects and so on, you know, and makes the object change from a moment to moment. We know that Maya brings about the phenomenal world of objects, and these objects not only they come, stay for a while, and then they go, but they keep changing from a moment to a moment. And in this verse, there is something new for me here, which is a principle described in this by Shankara here as Kala. Kala is a principle that is responsible for this continuous changing in every and all objects in creation. And it's heavily subjective. Most probably is going to be more clearly understood. No, you don't bring any more later verse, but it is subjective because time and change is very subjective. So time, space is vyavaharika, and it's pratibhasika. No, vyavaharika, and time is pratibhasika. You understand? So time is a subjective phenomenon which is known and experienced from the standpoint of the human jiva and the human jiva alone. So you see, space is the first element that comes into creation once the energies, you know, develop, and then the container in which all the other elements develop. You know, the air is going to come out of space, and then out of space is going to come water, and so on. And every space goes grossifying. So this is all the projection of Maheshwara, okay? It's all pratibhasika, okay? But then time is a subjective principle, a phenomenon, let's say. Why? Because first space has to bring about the complete manifestation of the universe, and the universe is complete only when there is an agent that is going to enjoy and suffer. In other words, experience and know the creation. The creation serves the purpose for the living creatures with intellectual intelligence can experience and know this world, this phenomenon, this apparent world of objects. So the Jiva comes when the projection is complete. Now we have the creation, it was fully developed, and now we have the agent, which is designed to experience the creation. So we have Ishwara, we have Jagata, and now within Jagat, we have Jiva, which is to complete this creation. So it is in the mind of the Jiva that time and change occurs, okay? It occurs in the mind of the Jiva, and it is totally subjective, and we're going to understand it better as we go here. So Lin says that in the verse 92, Faust writes the levels of reality discussed in the commentary on the previous verse defined by their duration. That which is truly real, the highest level, transcends time. That we are talking about Brahman, we are talking about Satya, we are talking about that which is not associated to Maya. So consciousness without any, without Maya come into operation, it is what we call Paramartika, is the only reality, okay? So we are saying here that there are levels of reality, and the true, the real one, the highest level transcends time, because time, as I was just saying, time comes once the creation is complete, and it comes subjectively in the mind of the Jiva as Pratibhasika. You understand? It is a Pratibhasika reality. And why it comes as a Pratibhasika, a reality that exists within the mind of the Jiva and the Jiva only. Why? Because time only comes into place when the objects are known and experienced, and immediately the experience agent, the Jiva, establishes a distance between himself or herself and the object. You understand? So once the objects are there, and then we get into the distance between objects, duration of experiencing of each object, So the whole dimension of time comes subjective in the mind of the human Jiva. You understanding that, Lynn?
Yeah. So are you saying that the seed of that subjectivity, that Jiva, actually exists as a potentiality in time-space?
I do not quite understand your point. Let's go slowly, because time, space, I want you to go more into your questions about time, space being a unit or not being a unit, okay? So, but remind me again of your question now, this question now. So in the verse 92, Faust writes in the commentaries that there are levels of reality. Being the highest level, Paramartika, or in other words, Brahman or Satya, okay, that which transcends time, because time comes into the play only when the creation is complete, and then it happens from the standpoint of Jiva, okay? So it's imaginary, okay? So that which is truly real, the highest level, transcends time. That which is empirical and imaginary, okay? So this which transcends time, which is the highest level, which is beyond Maya, okay? It transcends the empirical and the imaginary. So Paramartika transcends the projection of Maya Ishwara, and transcends also this reality of the Jiva, the so-called Pratibhasika. Okay, so we have Paramartika, Vyavaharika, and Pratibhasika. Pratibhasika, Vyavaharika, and and the Pratibhasika. Paramartika, Vyavaharika, and Pratibhasika. Pratibhasika is the subjective reality that is experienced and known to the jiva, okay? And it's shared collectively by all jivas as well. There is a collective mind as well of this imaginary reality, okay? So then it says that which is truly real, which is Paramartika, the highest level, transcends Maya, time, and transcends the empirical and the imaginary. The empirical is the projection as, you know, superimposed by Maya and Shwara, and then boom, there is the universe. That is the empirical reality. You know, it's physical, it's tangible, it's material, and then we have the mental, emotional, imaginary reality, which happens in the jiva's mind. Okay, it's imaginary. So the imaginary is faster. I think that's the point here. He says the imaginary lasts for longer. One lasts for longer, the empirical. When we see things, we see a tree. So now we see a tree, we know that the tree is going to stay for some time. Now I have this land, I'm cultivating and playing with planting a vegetable garden and some trees. So I know that this reality created by Ishvara, the objects come and they stay for some time. But if in my mind I think of a tree, and then I immediately afterwards I think of my wife, so this imaginary reality, it goes very fast. So the best example for us to understand this imaginary reality is the dream state, or the daydream as well, because we know how to dream while awake. We can dream and then we can go, you know, we can go into every corner of the universe mentally. Yeah? Then this imaginary reality, it has a different timing feel to it, okay? That which is empirical lasts longer, and that which is imaginary, it lasts shorter, short periods, okay? So the seeming divisions of time are paramartika. So the seeming division, from what I understand, I haven't really looked into the book, but the seeming divisions of paramartik are paramartika.
Yeah, I mistakenly, I reversed Paramartika and Pratibhasika. What I meant to say was Pratibhasika.
Pratibhasika, that makes more sense. Yeah. So the seeming divisions of time are Pratibhasika. That's why, that was your second email. Yeah, now I remember, because I read the other day when you sent it. So that the seeming divisions of time are Pratibhasika. Okay, so we have Pratibhasika and we have Vyavaharika. Vyavaharika time is just commonly held Paramartika. Is this correct?
Pratibhasika.
Pratibhasika, and again, yeah, of course, yeah. In both cases, yeah. So I don't know if it's getting confusing for you guys out there, but it is like that. Let me make it simple. We have these two orders of reality. We have the three. Yeah? We have the absolute, and then we have the projection of Maheshwara, and then we have this interpretation or the mental, the way we experience the projection of Maheshwara, you know, and this is the imaginary order of reality, which belongs to the jivas. Okay, so this experience of the jiva, the imaginary, is much faster in comparison to the empirical reality, which is a projection of the physical material world projected by Maheshwara. The imaginary one is much faster, you know, because it belongs to the mind, okay? And the apparent divisions of time are Pratibhasika. Então, all this experience we have, that there is time between objects, all of this belongs to Pratibhasika. Vyavaharika time is just commonly held Pratibhasika. So it's always subjective. So Vyavaharika time of Vyavaharika, there is here it's breaking into two different concepts of time. There is a time within the manifest, the creation, and there is the time which is Vyavaharika, which is the time that the jiva experience, okay? So they say, for example, that the universe is created and then destroyed over a certain number of trillions of years or billions of years and so on. So let's say this is the scale of time of Vyavaharika. So universe, the day and the night of Brahman. But this is experienced from the standpoint of the jiva as a Vyavaharika. But this experience of Vyavaharika time is held in Pratibhasik because it's within, you know. So the entire reality of the jiva is in the experience of time, it's all within the projection of Maheshwara that involves a certain scale of time and the jiva experience subjectively, you know, and it's within the projection of Maheshwara, but it is experienced subjectively according to our vasanas, according to our likes and dislikes as well. There is somebody else coming in. Our likes and dislikes as well. As we know, if we experience something that we don't like, the time seems to take longer. But if we experience something that we like very much, the time seems to fly. You understand? So all of this is part of this Vyavaharika, this subjective reality, which is within, it's held within Pratibhasika, Vyavaharika, you understand? But it's Pratibhasika, it's the experience of the jiva, okay? It's always subjective. That's why when it says there in the verse 497, there are no divisions. The divisions and the time is brought about by Kala is heavily subjective, okay? So this is the experience of every jiva, that things are really changing, and there is timing, yeah, in this process. But the truth is that there are no divisions, it says on the verse 497. There's the principle of the changes. So that changing principle, there is no division. I apologize. I should have looked into the entire verse around this subject in the full book. Can you send it to me, Lynn? Because I don't think I have it, the entire Viveka Chudamani with 500 and something verse. When you can, please, can you send it to me?
Oh, yeah, I've got it in a text.
You have it in paper print?
Yeah.
Paper print.
PDF?
You have PDF? You have it?
Or a link to download it?
Okay. Yeah, because I should have looked into the context in which this verse 497 was brought about, you know, with this concept of Kala. I just started looking more in details before. I'm having so much construction going on here and project, but I should look a little bit better in the entire context around this verse 497, which Lynn has linked to the verse 92, in which the commentaries of Faust, which are commentaries of Dayananda mostly, unfolds, you know, and talking about these two orders of reality, the empirical and the imaginary, okay? So one is faster, one is longer. They are both Pratibhasika, meaning to say they are all within Pratibhasika, but the jiva is going to experience according to its vasanas, and it's going to get a different feel of time, you know, and it's going to experience time differently according to its vasanas. Empirical science, and this is you saying, right, Lynn? Empirical science always talks of space and time as a unity. It's also considered a unit per Vedanta. It's a question. I have not seen time being present in the tattvas. Yeah, just space. So it's time to be assumed there. No, time, as I said, is part of the jivas mostly. I mean, when the scientists observe time, mostly they are experiencing and observing time, or they are analyzing time, which is a very philosophical discussion from the standpoint of the jiva. You understand? It's very philosophical discussion about time, and they often present time and space and as the two sides. We live within the paradigm called time-space. Time-space is where the experience of the jiva takes place. Why? Because the jiva is experience phenomenal objects, and in all of that established brings about the sense of time, because there are distance. Wherever there is distance in space, distance can be measured in time as well. We can say there is 60 miles to go from here and there, or we can say there is 1 hour, considering we travel on a 6-mile speed. So speed and time and space, they somehow they are measured, in the same sense. But time is experienced by the jiva once the creation is manifest and we have jiva, and then experience the other objects, and that is going to bring in the mind of the jiva the sense of time to reach from here, from this object, time to accomplish this object or this thing, or to gain something, to time to experience something before that experience changes into something else. Time comes in this relationship, in this interaction between jiva and the objects in his or her environment. And that we experience time every day is like that, It depends. I have been so busy here that time seems to be very short lately, for example, because there are so many things going on here, and different appointments and so on. But if tomorrow I'm very quiet, there are no projects and nothing, and then I will experience time differently. Time is going to feel like it's going very slowly, you understand? So this is the sense of time experienced in the mind of the jiva. So space is the most fundamental element, and time is not an element. Time is a byproduct of jiva experience its environment, you understand? So the scientists, when they look into phenomenal objects, they have this experience of time. So they know that everything seems to be moving in time. But as we know, we from Vedanta, we know that there is no such thing as a linear time. There is only experience, which fundamentally are cyclical. But it gives us a sense that there is a time from one experience to another experience to another experience. But actually, there is no real time. There is just the mind of the jiva in contact with the object slash thought slash object, and then that disappears, and then another thing comes in, another thing comes in. We have an imaginary sense of time. There is an apparent time there, but the reality, even within media, is just the elements appearing, and then by the power of color, changing from moment to moment, and then disappearing after some time. So everything is just appearing and then keep changing and disappearing due to this power. And the jiva experience this changing show. It develops this sense of time, which is very, very subjective according to one's vasana. So Lin says empirical science always talks of space-time as a unity. It's also considered a unit for Vedanta. No, it's not, as far as I know, Lin, okay? Time is a very philosophical discussion, and it is totally subjective, mostly. It can be scripture as well, because the scripture, the Vedas, brings about this notion of time appearing. It's all within Paramartika, Vyavaharika. Today I'm a little bit confused with this now. It's all about Vyavaharika, you understand? It's all an apparent reality. It's a projection, superimposition of all these things, okay? So when we talk about time, this time is not really within the tattvas of Vedanta. It's not the basic elements, It's just a byproduct of jiva experience. It is its own environment. Space is not measured by time, it says. This is the commentary of Faust. Space is not measured by time, yet time is measured by space. Again, so time occurs within space. Space is not measured by time, or it does not come out of time, you know. So time comes within space once the creation is complete, and then Jiva begins establishing certain times, and then we have this scriptural time measurement, which is revealed by the scripture when they say like time for the creation of the universe. There is no Jiva that can inferentially or even perceptibly determine the time of creation and how long the universe lasts, you know. I don't think there is, although nowadays some scientists have been coming close to guess the duration of the universe, or how long it may stay before it collapses into nothing or something like that. So I don't know much. I don't know much about this metaphysics and this subject, but definitely space is not measured by time. Yet time is measured by space. This is a Vedantic statement. Okay, time is measured by space. But we see space, the objects start coming, and then we start measuring the distance, and the distance brings about time. And then once we get in contact with these different objects, we have a sense of duration of experience, duration of connection or contact with this object. All of that comes out of space, of course. There's space manifesting the objects, the solid objects, the subtle world of feelings and thoughts and emotions as well. All of that is going to bring the sense of time for us. Space is not measured by time, yet time is measured by space. That is, by the distance between, the distance in space between the objects. So this is what I have been saying. And duration of experience is also a good way to understand how time comes within our mind. Because as I said, you know, the more objects we have to contact and accomplish and get things done, the time seems to be shorter, you know? Or the more pleasurable, you know, is our interaction with objects, the time seems to be shorter. But just imagine to have a toothache and you have no access to any painkiller, and you have to suffer for 24 hours, a very, very acute, you know, toothache. So, and you have to say, okay, now we're gonna wait. We have some painkiller, but it's gonna take 24 hours. So 24 hours with that pain, and that 24 hours is going to feel like a few days or months, you know, because like wow. So it's a function of our vasanas, of course. Space is not measured by time, yet time is measured by space. That is, by the distance between space between objects. In sum, space is all pervasive, omnipresent, and timeless. Space is almost all pervasive because space is all pervasive as far as Maya, as far as samsara, the universe. When the universe appears, and then space is the most pervasive principle. Yeah? But space does not pervade Satya, does not pervade Brahman, of course. The space is a byproduct of consciousness in association with Maya. No? Space is all pervasive, it's omnipresent, and it's timeless. So you see the space is put here as timeless. It's timeless because it's beginningless, and the time comes really into place only when the jiva begins to experience the objects which take place in space.
So and then, are you saying no jiva, no time?
No jiva, no time. If the human jiva is not there, the other jivas may be there, but they don't have an intellectual that can create this projection, you know. This pratibhasika satya is a reality of the human jiva. So depending on the way we experience the world, we're going to have different sense of time. You understand? It's totally subjective. But when we use the resource that we have, which is the scriptural knowledge, in the scripture they present time of creation. And then it's something that cannot really be determined by jivas. No, but from the scripture, so we are present with the notion of billions or trillions of years before the universe goes back into its potential seed condition. You understand? So this is another notion of time, aperian time, to somehow to present the duration of this aperian universe. You know, it's all within the realm of projection, superimposition, appearance. None of this is real. So we have the scripture that says that there is time when the creation is going to last, some trillions of years, but then the jiva is going to experience time its own way. You understand? Its own way. If there is no time, for example, let's go back to another philosophical concept. There is no jiva in the forest, and then a huge tree collapses, boom, it falls. So did the tree really fall? You know? So the very notion that the tree fell, it's only possible in the intellect of a human jiva. You understand? If there is no jiva, I mean, there is no question of raising or falling, because these are all human concepts, you understand? So the tree may collapse, boom, there is nobody witnessing that. And then if there is nobody witnessing that, nothing really happened. It's just the elements that keeps just recycling themselves and bringing about, this beautiful miracle of life, decomposing, So all these things, they happen subjectively in the mind of the jivas. Space is not measured by time, yet time is measured by space, that is, by the distance in space between objects. Space is all pervasive, omnipresent, and timeless. This is Faust, verse 94. If thinking of space-time as a unity, this is you, huh? If thinking of space-time as a union, this statement confused me as it appears to bifurcate that unity. Is he saying that time is dependent on space, therefore not in the same order reality as space? Yes, exactly. So time depends on the space. Space brings about the creation, and then time comes later on as the jiva experience the objects which take place in creation. They don't belong in the same order of reality, because one is vyavaharika and the other is pratibhasika. Pratibhasika is when we experience, and the scientists, they experience, they analyze, they investigate, they are developing notions, philosophical notions about space from the about time, from the standpoint of their own mind, the observer, the investigator. So it's all subjective, it's all happening in the pratibhasika. So I don't know if that was helpful or not. If anybody wants to elaborate a little bit more, or if you have more questions, please, this is a nice space to share it too.
May I do one follow-up? So it seems that everything that is apparent in the subtle and gross bodies has a seed in the causal body, right?
Yeah.
So although mostly it's pratibhasika in terms of the way we experience from the jiva's point of view, there has to be a seed for that, because if he says divisionless, I can't imagine divisionless in the subtle or gross world. So Is that why they call it kala instead of a different, I mean, does kala sort of encompass that seed form of what we experience as time?
Well, that's why I say I want to look into the previous verse to understand where the text was going with that analysis of this principle which brings about change. Okay, so next class I promise you, I will bring it up, and then I will address this. I want to understand this color if it refers this division, if it is referring to the division between objects, or now you are bringing another possibility, that is division between the three, or the three states, or the three bodies, or or I want to understand better the context of the division, but maybe you could tell me what is the division that they are talking about there in that verse 409 something.
I'll have to go back again with you because I don't, the context is not here.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it seems when he talks about it as a principle which brings about change, it makes me think that a principle belongs to causal, macrocosmic causal. So that,
Yes.
like that principle in time
No,
might
definitely, yeah. It has to come from there. It has to come from there, or even before that. This principle, it may be already, in the very fabric of the manifest. Because when Maya comes and begin projecting even the basic, the subtle elements, so everything is already subject to modification. Every constituent of Maya. So I think it operates all over this principle color. It most probably it operates from the very beginning. As I told you, I haven't seen that term, that Sanskrit term, and I'm curious to look into it. Yeah, I'm very excited actually, because I love Paramarthananda's expositions. Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much.
Oh, great pleasure. I hope David have enjoyed as well.
Well,
David, we want you happy, huh? We want you happy.
Not too happy, but well, I find it I'm a very visual person, so learning visually, and I get really frustrated when I cannot spell the words you're using, and I don't know how to look them up even because I can't spell them. And as you go through this, it would be helpful to me to see the words, so that I can visually see them, and then if I need to go research or need to learn more or find a definition, then I can do that. But I find this, you say kola, I don't know I couldn't spell that to say kohl. And I don't know if it's the accent or just it's Sanskrit or what. But
no, it is a Sanskrit word that goes KLLAH, but it's more. I mean, we all could do some homework to go and understand better, because this word is new for me. It's a Sanskrit word that goes for a principle that brings about the continuous modification in everything that comes into creation. Everything which comes in creation is in constant, continuous modification. Even the greatest mountains, are made of rock. Everything is changing. So, and that in this verse is referred to a power or principle called kala. So there is a lot that one can go and it's a very subtle subject. But you are right in the sense that from now on, I will get the questions, the written questions, and I'm going to forward to everybody, if you don't mind getting too many emails from me. And then everybody could have a copy of the written question, so that we would especially when it's...
If you put it in the chat room, we see it here. We can see it here in front of us as well. And then I have another question, because I'm confused, because it sounds to me like Lynn's reading a much more comprehensive Viveka Chudamani than
Yeah.
what we're looking at, because she
Yeah.
said verse 492.
Yeah.
For what verse? And I'm like, I have no idea where that's coming from, and I'm not debating it, but this kind of came from left field for me.
Yes,
So,
that's all Lynn's fault. I mean, so much trouble now, Lynn. Huh? So this the text we have been studying. It's this selected verse from Viveka Chudamani. It was 108 verse selected by Swami Paramarthananda years back when Dayananda asked Swami Paramarthananda to make a summary, selecting a few verses so that Dayananda was going to deliver his talks in a shorter period of time. So this is became this book within our Shine World Sampradaya, the select 108 verse, which was selected by Swami Paramarthananda as a summary. And because there is a lot of repetitions in every textbook of Vedanta, as we know. But I'm sure that to go through the entire text would be great fun as well. And we may consider that maybe sometime in the future, who knows? So once I get this PDF from Lynn, I forward it to you as well. Can I, Lynn?
Yeah, I think that everything, like when somebody has the Upanishad and then there's a commentary on that and then somebody else makes a commentary on that, it all just keeps, showering down. And that Faust version is thanks to Ramji, I guess, give Edwin that job to make it really accessible for us.
Yeah. Yeah. That was a compilation of the teachings, of the delivery of these teachings done by Swami Dayananda, of the select verse that in the recent years, Faust decided to get that compilation in English and translate it, in a book more comprehensive with English language that is easier for us to understand and so on. And he has made his signature there with his English vocabulary and so on, But it's based on Ramji says that he almost did not touch that, and because Faust did a great job in write again the compilation of the presentation of the teachings of Dayananda based on this summary of the Viveka Chudamani. So do we have any other? Yes, David?
well, I'm just thinking, as you're looking into this, I'm going back to, some teachings from Ramji, and it was really profound, I thought, but it really was talking about there is no distance between objects because the objects all occur in our mind, meaning that they don't exist. The eye does not see. The eye, just picks up sensory type things, but it has to be translated by the mind. So it doesn't really happen in the eye. It happens in the mind. So that there's actually, everything is occurring in the mind and there's no distance or space between them. So I kind of remember this discussion with Ramji, and maybe Karen or Ruth would have remembered as well. But so when I think about time and space, I'm kind of thinking about it in this kind of term, and this may be a more gross level. And I get that, but that's where I'm maybe that's where I'm at is, and I want to go look back at the essence of enlightenment and see what Ramji says about time and space there, perhaps.
Yeah, we don't go much into this because talk about time is very philosophical. Ramji does not go much into philosophy. He keeps to the teachings. I have been studying his presentations of Vedanta for the past 6 years or so. I have gone through all the videos and all the books, and he does not say much about time. It's a very philosophical subject, you understand? But anyhow, everything happens in consciousness, and it happens through the mind, this apparent reality of names and forms and objects. They occur in the mind, you know. So, and then where is the location of the object? If the object are located in the mind, and if the mind is not apart from consciousness, so there is no question of location of objects out there. So everything is within consciousness, you understand? And then, of course, there is no question of space, time as well, you know? So space and time is from the standpoint of ignorance, you understand? But once we correct ignorance with the teachings of Vedanta, and then space and time disappear, because everything is really happening within consciousness. But in this verse that we are following, space was being presented as almost as a reality, the all-pervasive, you know, ever-present space, you know, but it's within the superimposition, which is mithya. It's just an appearance. But the truth is that everything is happening within consciousness. That's what the location of objects reveals to us, you know.
Yeah. And my question coming into this session, which kind of dovetails off of this, is where does karma reside? In satya or in mithya?
Karma?
And karma, and what powers it? Satya or Maya? Satya or Maya? What powers karma? So you don't have to go there now if you don't want to, but that's just kind of my question.
No, this is important to mention. You are asking where does karma resides, if it resides in satya or in mithya? No, karma is it's part of this apparent reality. You understand? So karma is literally means action, but actions do not stop at the action itself. It causes ripples. It brings about repercussions. You know, it brings about consequence, brings about results. So the karma is a complex kind of logic or science. Okay, when we really go into it, but it's all happened subjectively in the mind of the jiva. It's part of Vyavaharika Satya. Okay, it's not Paramarthika, it's not Pratibhasika, it's not Vyavahara. And today I'm really confused about those. It's not the reality of Brahmana, absolute. It's not the reality of Maheshwara, which is this projection. Okay, it's not Pratibhasika, it's not Vyavaharika, it is Pratibhasika. Just right, Lynn?
You got me confused.
So Lynn is our expert in Sanskrit, and now we even got Lynn confused today.
I'm asking the question maybe because as you do your research, maybe you could think this about the question of karma and where it fits.
Now, karma resides. There is no karma for any other jiva. There is no karma in this projection of Maheshwara. You understand? This order, empirical, material, physical reality projected by Maheshwara, in which all kinds of living creatures exist, there is no karma. There is only karma from the standpoint of the jiva, because the jiva owns its actions, you know, and then it takes responsibility for its results, because he wants to enjoy. He ends up suffering a lot of the time. You understand? So karma is a law that the human jivas are subject to, and it's absolutely important to be understood, this law, because our human experience is governed by these ethical, psychological, karmic laws, causality, you understand? So, but it's all subjective. So any other animal or creatures, they don't have any of that, because they just respond to the stimulus coming from the environment according to their nature, their program. You understand? without any sense of ownership, doership, authorship, and responsibility in regards to the results. They don't have this, this complexity, this psychological complexity, you understand? So karma belongs to this imaginary reality of the jiva that exists within the imaginary reality, the project reality, which is not imaginary, unless we think that it is Maya Ishwara is imagining and projecting the universe. And then we see the projection of Maya Ishwara, which jiva is going to project this notion of karma. And it serves its purpose, because jiva, having this free will, it needs to get a sense of morality. You understand? It needs to get a sense of of moral, dharma, karma, and understand how these laws govern each one of our experience, so that he can live in harmony with all the other creatures. The other creatures, they have no problem to live in harmony with dharma, because they don't have free will. You understand? How are we going to, now that we have all our desires, all our aversions, all these vasanas, how are we going to manage to live in harmony with the other creatures and the environment, unless Ishwara provides us with the scriptures on karma and dharma, and then we begin correcting our behavior, hopefully one day, and living in harmony with other creatures. So it is a reality that it's only exists in the mind, the intellect of the human jiva, and it is there for a purpose, to be, so that we can adjust. We connect the dots, we see the relationship between our actions and results. We see when we do certain action, it's going to cause harm not only to me, to others, and when I do good actions, it causes benefit for myself, and then we start, and then Ishwara helps us and reveal this scriptures, but it's all for the human jiva, because it's part of this psychological, subjective reality of each one of us human jivas. It's the free will has a huge price tag attached to it. It's a huge responsibility. Hi, Elizabeth. Are you feeling better? Hello, Elizabeth. Are you feeling better today?
So Arlindo, I was just thinking that basically what we're talking about is the morphology and evolution of Mithya. We're just looking really at the subtle structures and as they manifest and change, and we just happen to divide them up into levels of causal, subtle, and gross, but it's really just that unity.
Yeah, a gente pode, we can do
that principle of change.
Yeah. Say the last thing you said.
And at its core, in that causal reality, is that principle of change.
Yes. Yeah.
And flower is karma. Blah,
Yeah. Jagat is that which is in constant change, modification from moment to moment. We know that. Yeah? We say there is a spiritual proverb that says you can never meet the same man or woman twice. Have you heard that before? You can never meet the same woman twice. Oh, how strange. Yes, because when you meet her in the afternoon, she's already changed from the woman you met in the morning, because everything is changing. You know? Our mental state is changed, our mood is changed, our body is changed, the cells of our body, our vasanas are being modified. So this is the dynamics of everything here is change. We live a life that we are trying to establish a kind of stability against the fact that everything is changing so fast that it's impossible to really to freeze life in a way that I can, oh no, I want this circumstance, I want this situation, I want this kind of experience, I want this state of mind, you know, I want this position. But now, the only thing that is for sure is that change is the very base, you know, of this universe. It's the core of everything, changing. And we would have the power to freeze experience or to freeze. I mean, the greatest dream of a lot of human beings is to come to a point of eternal life, to find the eternal life pill. Oh, now science is grown. I'm going to take that pill, and then I will no longer change. My body is no longer going to age, you know. But it's not impossible unless we turn ourselves into hybrids, you know. I mean, we make ourselves like robots. Otherwise, we're going to keep changing and die. Everything come and everything go in time. You know, we see our perception, we see our understanding, this subjective reality in which we see things appearing as real, staying for some time, changing all the time. The other day, I was there visiting with my father, and I saw a picture. I saw a picture of exactly 20 years ago. There was myself, my two brothers, my father, and I think it was only us. And I was surprised to see what time did in only 20 years. When I remember my life, I see 20 years. It's not long ago. I remember very well what I was doing 20 years ago. When I looked into my picture, the picture of my brother, his wife, and my other brother and my father, I was like, wow, what time does, I mean, Mitya, what Maya, which Kala does, you know, changing, and make things wear out. Yeah. And I was very surprised with that picture.
I was thinking about, living a more of a sattvic lifestyle, and really the objective maybe isn't stability as much, or it's really about adaptability. So, the interest is can I adapt to a constantly changing environment?
Yeah, that is the key. That's the key. I mean, Karma Yoga helps us to accept what cannot be really changed or reject. You know, we cannot change our Prarabdha Karma. We cannot change time, the way it operates in every constituents, of the three gunas. Every body, every object is subject to time. So we need to accept that. We need to accept the mortality of the physical body. And how are we going to accept all of that? The fact that we have no control, that time is going to burn everything, and everything that's burnable is going to go. Everything that was born is going to die. So how are we going to deal with this situation? I mean, the only way is to understand our higher nature, that which was not born and it's never going to die, and be established in our primary higher nature. And then we can see the body objectively age and die. So this spiritual knowledge is the only solution, because there is a lot of people out there in the world that still hoping that maybe they are going to find a way to make the body live eternally. You understand? But the only thing that lives eternally is our, there are people out there still hoping, dreaming that one day we can have something that is going to make the body to live eternally. But eternity is not possible. Immortality is not possible for the body, you know. Immortality is only possible for that which is our true nature, you know, consciousness. And only this understanding and this the claiming our true nature as that which was never born, which will never die, solves the problem of mortality. There is no immortality for the body, there is immortality for consciousness, our true identity, nature. And then we need to accept, we need to adapt to all the change. Né? We have to be dancing with all this flow of change, adjusting all the time. And God, I mean, the world has been changing such a speed lately that you almost have to be, you know, a juggler to stand, you know, in the midst of all this fast change, you know. It's not easy. It's better we...
To me, is I mean, that's the reason for simplifying.
Yeah.
And, you know, prioritizing and becoming, you know, living a simple life is so that you can deal with the change that does occur, as opposed to trying to deal with everything that's going on, because it's impossible to do that. And it's just kind of funny. There's more and more commercials about how things are changing so quickly. And of course, the older generation can't keep up with the younger generation. And I mean, and maybe it's just getting older, but you just like, so keep it simple. Don't try.
And now you understand why I have retired here in Brazil now, and I bought this piece of land and I'm growing my food because I want to live as simple. And very soon, so I have something like a few acres, and growing our food. And just to give an idea, we are so deep into nature that we don't pay water bill. We get our water direct from the source. You understand? The streams from the mountain that comes from water, and then we have so much water in the rivers here. So it's hot here. So at least twice a day, I go in a natural pool, a river, with at least 30 meters. And I go there, I swim a little bit. So I want to, and I was attracted when I came here. I remembered my life, how it used to be 40 or 50 years ago. Set back, all, you know, simple, and chickens walking all around, and, you know, and people going around with horses still. It's almost like going back in time. So I enjoy it. I don't like this new lifestyle that it's approaching, you know. I prefer nature. I think nothing beats nature. Nature has its beauty, its magic, its intelligence. So. I wish you guys could come, and just so we can make a small Vedanta community here.
You can sign me up.
Okay. All right. I will begin by sending you some pictures of the place and some history of the place. I'm closing to a town called Alto Paraíso. In Alto Paraíso, there are people from all over the world. I'm in the very central area of Brazil. There are more than 40 different nationalities here. You won't believe it. I mean, I discovered that I'm very close to an American guy, and we became friends. and he is from the East Coast. And then I got to know his history, and I was like, I can't believe, how did you end up here in the end of the world, in the interior, you know? And so there are more than 40 different nationalities of people that somehow, for different reasons, came here because we want to go back in time, and we want to see, to live the life how it used to be 50 years ago, 40 years ago, you know. We don't like the change of time, the modern change of time. So construction is beginning here.
Could you spell the name of the town in the chat room? Would you?
Oh, you know what is unique about this place here? Water. Have you seen a place? I was so surprised because everywhere I went into the world, wherever there is water, there are mountains with a lot of snow that melts to make the rivers. But here, there is no question of any snow. The water comes from the ground all over the place and making huge waterfalls. And there is no question of high mountains with snow or ice, you understand? It's all groundwater that comes to the surface. There are hundreds and hundreds of waterfall in this area here. And in the entire region of this central area of Brazil, they say that there are thousands, and most of them were never experienced by human beings. They seem from the satellites. So it's a huge resource of water that other nations are really wanting to get their hands upon, especially China, you know, because water is going to be one of the most resourceful things. And it's such a privilege to have a river and to be able to drink water direct from the source without any added chemicals. If you Google Alto Paraíso de Goiás, Brazil, they are going to show hundreds of waterfalls, one more beautiful than the other. So, I mean, we don't need to go that far to begin a community here, but you should come to visit me here sometime. Okay? Any question from Karen? Any report?
Contemplation. It's always my big one. Time is a deep subject. Deep of space, steeped in space, and how we interpret in our mind all of it. It's interesting. Always.
Okay, doke. Okay, my friends. So I'm gonna go for my lunch. The guys are already here beginning their job. And we meet again next Monday. And much love to you all. I appreciate these meetings very much. I appreciate the support of all of you as well. And come to visit me here. Okay. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you, Lord. My neighbor here next door is German, and he has a very nice guest house. and it's beautiful. It's kitchen, nice chalet, the thing. And I have one friend staying there right these days, you know, and the price, for your knowledge, is $20 a day, and it's very beautiful and very nice. Okay.
Thank you. Ciao, ciao.
Ciao, ciao.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye
Thanks,
bye.
Linda. Bye now.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Karen. Thank you. Thank you, Elizabeth.